What's up guys, Drowner Beats here, and today I'm going to be going over how to mix an 808. I'm going to skip all the formalities and just get right to it. And the first thing I'm going to do is show you guys the already mixed 808. I'm ready to go. Keep in mind, I have it a little loud just so it's more audible, and this track isn't finished yet, so it's not going to sound as clean and as cohesive as it should, but here we go. Okay, that's what it sounds like. That's the after. This is the before. Let me show you the 808 raw, untouched, nothing going on. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is adjust your 808. Get that sound you want. Pick the right sample, pick the right VST, because you want to start from a good starting point. And for me, it already sounds good. I'm using Somatics Quake. It's a really good VST. It's paid, but it's cheap. Another thing you want to keep in mind is if you're going to pick a sample, make sure you pick the right one that fits with what you're doing and what you're making. Especially because a lot of samples are in the key of C, but if you're going to make something in the key of F, or in the key of D, or in the key of E, or whatever, sometimes that sample will lose energy if you transpose it too much. If you shift the pitch, it'll lose the energy. So you want to pick a sample that works. Step 2 is going to be finding or placing your 808 at a good level. So right now, as you can see, we're already clipping. And I like to have my 808s at a good starting point, about negative 12 dBs to negative 6, somewhere around there, negative 6, negative 12. Just so you have more headroom to work with. If you add a lot of processing, a lot of effects, a lot of whatever you want, you can add a little bit of gain each time and give it more energy. So what I'm going to do first is reduce the gain till I hit about negative 12. Okay. The next thing I do personally is delay the track by 0.5 milliseconds. And the reason is I have my drums exactly at 0 milliseconds. And the reason for that is I want the drums to hit first, right on beat. And then I want my 808 to come in slightly after. It gives the kick more room, and it makes your mix less muddy without even having to do any processing. So now that we have our level set, the next thing I like to personally do is add some saturation. So I'm going to use where is it? The Saturn. I like this one a lot because you can pick your very specific frequency you want to affect. And what I like to do is find the grit, find whatever I want to boost. So let's solo it in here. So somewhere around, each 808 is different, but this one, somewhere around the 259 hertz range. That's what I want to boost. And I'm going to use some heavy saturation and tweak this just so I get that sound I want. So this is going to make your 808 more audible, cut through the mix, and you're going to be able to hear it better on things like phone speakers or lower quality headphones, and it's just going to make your mix overall, or your 808 overall, a little better. So I'm going to boost a dB there, and let's hear the before and after. So yeah, it just gives it that boost that you want. So after this, the next thing I like to do is EQ. And there's always that debate, compress before EQ or EQ before compress. I think that if you don't exactly like the sound you have, you shouldn't compress until you get the sound you want. Because then you're going to compress all those frequencies you don't want and bring them out, versus EQing first. You can adjust and then compress to get the sound you already have better. And I like to cut around 30 hertz for an 808. It all varies too, like it depends. Like sometimes you'll compress first and EQ later if you already have your sound dialed in. So let's hear what it sounds like cutting at 30 hertz. There's not much of an audible difference, but if you're listening on some speakers, monitors, you're going to hear it. The next thing I like to do is cut the muddiness, which is usually around 100 to 130 hertz, somewhere around there. But it, like I said, it varies on 808s. So yeah, I think around 117. And I'm just going to do a steep-ish cut. And what that's going to do is just bring out your low end a lot better. I'm also going to boost that same frequency I boosted with the saturator, which was around, I don't remember, but we'll find it. Call it 397, and just a little boost. Yeah, 438, a little boost there. And basically that's all I do for my 808, except maybe I'll put a dynamic band here, just to get a little bit of side chaining going, nothing too crazy. What you can do is actually side chain your drums so that when your drums hit, this band right here will duck. It works better if you are using strictly a kick sample. Right now I'm using a drum VST, so it's picking up on the snare and the other elements. So I'm not actually going to do this, but this is something to keep in mind if you are strictly using a kick sample for your drums. You can just sidechain the kick, and it'll only affect the kick, and it'll give you, you know, a little bit of dynamic movement there. So now I'm going to go to compressing, and I'm gonna use the distressor. You can use any compressor, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to increase the attack, and then the release, I'm going to have it a little bit faster. So slow attack, faster release, and I like to have it around 4/1. For this one, I'm going to do a high pass filter just because I don't want it to pick up and start compressing because those lower frequencies hit. I want it to start compressing because of the higher frequencies. So as you can see, this compressor already gave it a boost, and I want to EQ or gain match, which means I want to keep it at around the same gain level. You can increase a little bit each time to get more energy, but I like to have mine around the same level throughout the entire mixing process. So now let me increase the input here. So I'm liking that sound. Let's hear the before and after. I just realized I have the drums going the whole time. My bad. But yeah, so that just kind of makes it a little more cohesive. It kind of squishes it a little bit so it's more audible on the higher end of it, and it tightens the low end so it's not as boomy and it doesn't muddy your mix. And the next thing would be to sidechain. So this is all very, very simple and easy. There's nothing too crazy going on. And there's two ways or multiple ways you can sidechain, but I'm gonna do two different ways. I'm gonna use a multi-band compressor, which is right here. I'm gonna use the Pro MB. I'm gonna add the drums. And I'm gonna send it to the pre-fader position. I think most DAWs send it to pre-fader. Cubase doesn't for some reason. But now we can see where the frequencies clash, which is around here. So around 60 hertz. Now I'm going to send it to mid only because the stereo is in mono and you want to only affect the mid/mono of the 808. So now whenever the kick hits, you can see it ducks. And then you just play around with the settings, see what you like. You want to have a faster attack and a slightly slower release. And a harder band. A little bit of look ahead. So I'm going to play it with and without the compressor so you can hear the difference. So it's very subtle, but once you start dialing everything else in, especially when you go to master, you're going to hear the difference and it's going to sound a lot clearer in your mix. Another thing you could do, so let's say you don't have a multi-band compressor, you can use the EQ, dynamic EQ band. Same thing like I explained before. You sidechain this. Let me remove this sidechain actually. But you can sidechain this and have a duck here, or you can use volume as well. You can go and automate your volume so whenever the kick hits, dip down the 808 and then bring it back up after the kick. I personally like to use the Curves Resolve stereo, and it's basically just a sidechaining tool. So let me add the 808. And I'm going to, again, send it to what's already sent to pre-fader. And what this does is it listens to the sound, listens to the frequencies that clash, and basically sidechains for you. So learn, and then if we play the drums in the 808, I accidentally sidechained an 808 to an 808. The drums, here we go. Okay. So this is the drum track right here. It heard it, and then for sidechain content, I'm going to put kick. And once you start raising this right here, you can see how the kick is ducking. You can hear the affected frequencies too. And with this thing, you can affect either do dynamic side chaining, or you can do the learned threshold, which is what it heard. But for something like this, it's so simple, you don't need to do the steady. And then you can also affect the attack, the release, and the precision. So attack, I want it fast. The release, slightly slower. Okay. And honestly, that's pretty much it. Nothing too crazy. And then after that, you can use your you can use a limiter to bring it up if you want, or you can use other sort of processing. But this is the very, very basic, bare bones of what I like to do. So saturate, EQ, compress, sidechain. So let me show you now all together. So let me show you the whole track actually, just so you can get an idea of what it sounds like throughout the entire mix. But yeah, that's basically it. As you can see, it sits a lot better in the mix. And then obviously you want to set your levels with the fader, depending on how loud you want it. But it's honestly not too complicated. I think people overcomplicate EQing and mixing 808s and doing everything that they should. And there's other stuff you can do. Maybe I'll do another video going a little bit more in depth, but this is a quick one. So if you like this video, if you want to see more like it, if I missed anything, or if there's something that you think I should do, let me know. Drop it in the comments. Other than that, like the video and subscribe for more content like this. This is very informal, by the way. And my bad if I sound a little congested. My allergies are acting up, and I didn't think Mexicans could get allergies, but here we are. But yeah, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and I'll see you guys next time.